My name is Evelyn Carter, and I'm 66 years old. What I'm about to share changed my life forever. The day of my husband Robert's funeral was the quietest and saddest day of my life. While standing beside his grave, I got a message from an unknown number that made my heart freeze. "I'm alive." That's not me in the casket. My hands started shaking as I typed. "Who are you?" The reply came quickly. "I can't say. They're watching. Don't trust our sons." Those words tore my heart in two. My whole world started falling apart as I looked at our sons, David and Michael, standing by the coffin with calm faces. Something didn't feel right. Their tears looked fake, their hugs felt cold. For 42 years, Robert was my partner, my peace, my reason to live. I met him when I was 24 in a small town called Willowtown. We grew up on the same dusty roads, chasing small dreams. I worked cleaning houses to take care of my sick mother, while Robert fixed bicycles in a little shop his father left him. We were poor, but we were happy. We had something money couldn't buy: true love. I'll never forget the first time he spoke to me. It was a Tuesday morning. I was walking to the market in my faded green dress and old shoes. He stepped out of his shop, his hands covered in grease, and gave me a shy smile that stole my heart right away. "Good morning, Evelyn," he said softly. "Need me to check your bike?" I didn't even own a bike, but I made up a reason just to keep talking to him. That little chat turned into long talks under the old oak tree in the town park, then promises of forever, and finally a simple wedding filled with love and hope. The first years of marriage weren't easy. We lived in a small 2-bedroom house with a tin roof. When it rained, we'd place pots everywhere to catch the leaks. But we didn't mind. We were happy. Robert worked from morning till night at the shop, and I sewed clothes for women around town. When our first son, David, was born, I thought my heart would burst from joy. He was a beautiful baby, Robert's big eyes and my smile. 2 years later, Michael came along, just as perfect. I gave those boys everything I had. I raised them with love, sacrificed my own needs for theirs. Robert was a great father, taking them fishing on Sundays, teaching them how to fix things, telling them bedtime stories. I cooked, dressed, and comforted them whenever they cried. We were a close, happy family, or so I thought. But as the boys grew older, things started to change. David, the oldest, was always the ambitious one. Even as a kid, he'd ask why we lived so simply, why we didn't have a car like others. And Michael followed his lead like he always did. When David turned 18, Robert offered him a job at the shop, but he turned it down harshly. "I don't want to get my hands dirty like you, Dad. I'm going to be someone important." Those words broke Robert's heart, though he never admitted it. I'd find him sitting on the porch at night, staring at the stars with sadness in his eyes. His own son had rejected not just his job but his way of life. Years passed, and surprisingly, David made a name for himself in the business world. He got a job at a real estate company in the city, and Michael followed soon after. They started making good money, more than Robert and I had ever seen. At first, I was so proud. My boys had escaped poverty and built better lives. But slowly, that pride turned into sorrow. They started visiting less and calling rarely. When they did come home, they'd arrive in shiny cars, wearing suits, talking about investments and business deals. They looked at us with pity and even a bit of shame. "Mom," David said once during one of their few visits, "you and Dad should move somewhere better. This house is falling apart." He was right. The house was old, but it held every memory of our life together: the laughter, the struggles, the love. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Robert, always calm, would say, "Evelyn, money has changed our boys. We're not enough for them anymore." I didn't want to believe it. I kept making excuses for them. "They're just busy building their lives," I'd tell myself. "Someday they'll come back to being the loving sons we raised." But deep down, I knew Robert was right. We had lost our sons long before I lost my husband. I just didn't realize how far apart we had grown. The biggest shock came when David married Vanessa Moore, a city woman who never hid how much she looked down on our simple life. The first time she visited, she showed up in high heels that sank into the dirt of our porch, wearing a bright red dress that looked more expensive than everything I'd ever owned combined. "Nice to meet you," Vanessa said with a fake smile, barely touching my fingers when she greeted me. Her eyes wandered around our small home, studying every corner with an expression I couldn't really read, but whatever it was, it made me feel small. At dinner, she hardly ate the meal I had cooked with so much love. She just pushed the meatloaf around her plate and cut tiny pieces of chicken, but barely tasted anything. David looked uneasy, apologizing for little things he had never cared about before. "Next time we'll take them to a restaurant," he whispered to Vanessa, thinking I couldn't hear. But I did, and every word cut through my heart like a knife. Michael, on the other hand, stayed single but began acting just like his brother. He only came by on special occasions, and even then he always seemed in a hurry to leave. Most of the time, he was on his phone, busy closing deals even while talking to us. "Mom, I have to go," he'd say before it was even late. "I've got an important meeting early tomorrow." Our Sunday family gatherings became just memories. Christmas lost its warmth and turned into something cold and formal. The boys would show up with expensive gifts we didn't need, stay for 2 or 3 hours, then leave almost relieved to be gone. Robert and I grew old together, comforting each other in the silence they left behind. He still worked at his shop, though his hands had lost their strength. I kept sewing, even though my eyes were no longer sharp. We survived on our small income, proud that we never asked our successful sons for help. One evening, as we sat on the porch drinking coffee, Robert sighed and said, "Do you know what hurts the most, Evelyn? It's not that they have money. It's that the money made them believe we don't matter anymore." He was right as always. Our sons hadn't just changed financially, they had changed deep inside. We weren't their loving parents anymore. To them, we were just reminders of a past they wanted to forget. Things got worse when David bought a $200,000 house in an exclusive city neighborhood. Michael followed soon after, buying a luxury condo worth $150,000. Suddenly, our sons were rich in ways we couldn't even imagine. "You should sell this place and move into a retirement community," Vanessa said during one of her rare visits. "There are nice ones for people your age. You'd be more comfortable." The word community hit me like a slap. A retirement community? After 40 years of building our home, after raising those boys with love, they wanted to send us away to a home. "We don't need that," Robert said firmly, with his usual calm dignity. "We're fine here in our house." But I saw the looks on David and Michael's faces. They agreed with her. To them, we weren't their parents anymore. We were just a problem to solve, a burden to get off their shoulders. Then came the day David showed up holding some papers. He had prepared documents without even telling us. "Dad, Mom," he began with that fake polite smile of his. "I've been thinking about your future. This house isn't worth more than $1,000. If you sell it, I can add some money so you can move somewhere better, a nicer place." To Robert and me, there was no better place than the home where we had shared decades of happiness. But David didn't get that. To him, everything was just about numbers and value. "And besides," he added, "I think Dad should retire from the shop. He's already 70. It's time to rest." Robert looked at him with deep sadness and said, "Son, working isn't a burden. It's what keeps me alive, gives meaning to my days." "But Dad, you could get hurt," Michael said, backing him up like always. "At your age, an accident could be really dangerous." Their words sounded like concern, but I could feel something else behind them, a kind of impatience, a hidden urgency I couldn't quite understand. The months that followed were tense. The boys kept pressuring us to sell the house. They brought real estate agents without telling us, even got the house appraised behind our backs. They started saying it would be best for everyone. One night, during a particularly uncomfortable dinner, David looked at us and said, "Mom, Dad, Vanessa and I are planning to have kids soon. We'll need extra money for that. If you sell the house and move somewhere smaller, that money could serve as an early inheritance." An early inheritance? I thought, completely stunned. He was asking for our inheritance while we were still alive. The boldness of that request left me speechless. Robert stayed calm, but I saw his jaw tighten. "Son," he said quietly, "when your mother and I die, everything we own will be yours. But while we're alive, the choices we make are ours alone." "Don't be stubborn," Michael interrupted sharply, his tone colder than I had ever heard before. "You're old now. You can't keep living in the past." That night, after they left, Robert and I couldn't sleep. We sat up talking until dawn. For the first time in our marriage, we faced the painful thought that maybe our sons weren't the same people we believed we had raised. "Something's not right, Evelyn," Robert said, worry filling his eyes in a way I'd never seen before. "This isn't just ambition or impatience. There's something darker behind all this pressure." I didn't realize then how right he was. I couldn't have imagined that our own sons were planning something that would destroy everything, something that wasn't fate or bad luck, but a plan they had carefully put together. The last normal talk I had with David was about 3 weeks before Robert's death. He came over alone, without Vanessa, looking more serious than usual. "Mom," he said, sitting at the same kitchen table where he'd eaten breakfast so many times as a boy, "I just want you to know that no matter what happens, Michael and I will always take care of you." Those words comforted me at the time, but now standing by Robert's grave, remembering them made me shiver. No matter what happens. Why did he say that? What did he know that I didn't? The accident that changed everything happened on a Tuesday morning. Robert had left early for the shop, just like he had for over 40 years. I was in the kitchen making his favorite lunch, meatloaf and mashed potatoes, when the phone rang. The tone of the call instantly filled me with dread. "Mrs. Carter?" a strange voice asked. "I'm calling from St. Mary's Hospital. Your husband has been in a serious accident. You need to come immediately." The words blurred in my mind like ink spreading in water. My world froze. My legs went weak, and I had to hold on to the doorframe to stay upright. What happened? Is he okay? Is he alive? Is he in the ICU? I cried. "Ma'am, please come as soon as possible," the voice said gently. The ride to the hospital felt like a nightmare. My neighbor Helen had to drive me because I was shaking so badly I couldn't even hold the car keys. My mind just refused to believe what I was hearing. Robert was always so careful, so steady. How could this happen? When we finally reached the hospital, David and Michael were already there. That struck me as strange since no one had called them yet, at least, not me. But in my panic, I didn't think much of it. "Mom," David said, hugging me tightly. "Dad's in bad shape. The doctors said one of the machines in the shop exploded. He has severe burns and a brain injury." Michael's eyes were red, but his face didn't show real pain. He looked more tense than sad, like someone waiting for news, not someone grieving. "Can we see him?" I asked desperately. "Only immediate family," the nurse replied. "One at a time, for no more than 5 minutes." When I walked into that ICU room, my heart broke into 1,000 pieces. Robert was connected to so many machines. Bandages covered most of his face and arms. I could hardly recognize him. His breathing was mechanical, kept alive by the constant rhythm of beeping monitors. I went to his bedside and held his hand, the only part of him that wasn't covered. "Robert, my love, I'm here," I whispered. "Everything's going to be okay. You'll recover like you always do." Then I felt a faint squeeze on my hand. His eyelids moved slightly. He was fighting. My warrior was fighting his way back to me. The next 3 days were the longest of my life. I practically lived in the hospital, sleeping on the hard chairs in the waiting room. David and Michael stayed around, taking turns, but they seemed more focused on talking to the doctors than being by their father's side. I overheard pieces of conversations I didn't fully understand back then. Michael was asking about insurance coverage and treatment costs. David was on the phone, mentioning life insurance policies and beneficiaries. "Mom," David said to me on the second day, "we went through Dad's insurance papers. He has a life insurance policy worth $50,000. There's also workers' comp that could pay up to $75,000 more." I stared at him, shocked. "Why are you talking about money? Your father is still fighting for his life." "I know, Mom," he said quickly. "I just thought you should know." But I saw something in his eyes, something cold, calculating, and in that moment, I felt a chill I couldn't explain. There was a coldness in their eyes, like calculators working while their father lay dying. On the 3rd day, the doctors gave me the worst news of my life. Dr. Lewis, an older man with kind eyes, called us into a small office. "Mrs. Carter," he began softly, "your husband's condition is critical. The burns have gotten infected, and the head injury is more serious than we first thought. We need to be realistic about his chances. What does that mean? I asked, though deep down, I already knew. It means we should prepare for the worst, he said gently. Your husband is in an induced coma. We can keep him alive with machines, but it's very unlikely he'll ever wake up again. My world fell apart. 42 years of marriage, a whole lifetime together, and now, it was slipping away like smoke in the wind. We want to do everything possible, I said, crying. No matter how long it takes or how much it costs. But David looked at Michael, and something about that silent exchange made my stomach twist. Mom, David said in a calm voice, trying to sound understanding, we have to be practical. Dad wouldn't want to live like this. He always said he never wanted to be a burden. A burden. The word snapped something inside me. He's your father. I shouted through tears. He's not a burden. He's the man who raised you, who worked his whole life just to give you the best he could. We know, Mom, Michael said quickly. But you have to think about yourself too. The medical bills are going to be huge. They could wipe out all your savings. Money again. Always money. My husband was dying, and all they cared about were numbers. That night, I sat alone beside Robert's hospital bed, holding his hand. My love, I whispered. I don't know what to do. The doctors say there's no hope, but I can't let you go. I don't know how to live without you. And then, something happened that still gives me chills to this day. His fingers twitched the faintest movement and squeezed mine. His lips moved slightly, like he was trying to say something, but no sound came out. I panicked and called for the nurses. He's reacting. He's trying to talk. I cried. But by the time they arrived, Robert had gone still again. The nurse checked the machines and shook her head. Sometimes there are muscle spasms, ma'am. It doesn't mean he's conscious. But I knew what I had felt. Robert had tried to talk to me. He had tried to tell me something. 2 days later, in the early hours of Friday morning, the alarms started blaring. Lights flashed. Nurses ran into Robert's room. I had been dozing in the hallway. I jumped up and screamed, "No! No, no, please!" as I ran toward the sound. The doctors fought for 40 minutes, but it was no use. At 4:37 a.m., they pronounced Robert dead. The pain that hit me wasn't just emotional, it was physical, crushing, like my heart had been ripped right out of my chest. I fell beside his bed, hugging his body, still warm, refusing to believe he was gone. An hour later, David and Michael arrived. They didn't look shocked. They looked ready, like they'd been waiting for the call. They came with papers, phone numbers, and lists already made. "We talked to Willowtown Funeral Home," David said, as I sobbed uncontrollably. "They can pick up the body this morning." "We also called the insurance," Michael added. "The claim process is already started." I stared at them, broken. How could they be so organized, so calm, so cold, barely an hour after their father died? Something was terribly wrong. But my grief was so heavy, I couldn't think straight. The funeral was set for the following Monday. David handled everything without really asking me. He picked the simplest casket, the shortest service, as if he just wanted it over with. "It's what Dad would have wanted," he told me when I tried to protest. "Something simple, no fuss." But Robert deserved more than this rush to bury him and move on. The day of the funeral came. The sky was gray and heavy, as if it was crying too. I wore my only black dress, the same one I'd worn to my mother's funeral. My hands shook so badly that Helen, my neighbor, had to help me button it up. "Be strong, Evelyn," she whispered as she fixed my hair. "Robert would want you to be strong." But I didn't feel strong. I felt hollow, like a shell with no soul inside. 42 years of love can't just be buried like that. Everything in the house reminded me of him, his coffee mug on the table, his tools on the porch, his pillow still carrying his scent. When we got to the cemetery, I was surprised by how few people were there. I had expected to see his coworkers from the shop, neighbors, friends, but it was only me, Helen, David, Michael, Vanessa, and the Reverend John. For a man who had spent 70 years in the same town and helped so many people, it felt wrong, too quiet, too empty. "Where are the guys from the shop?" I asked David. "We didn't want to bother anyone," he replied quickly. "Dad was a private person. He would have wanted something small." That wasn't true. Robert loved people. He loved his community. He would have wanted them there. So why had David made everything so secretive, so rushed? During the service, I looked at my sons and felt distant. David wore a serious expression, but his eyes kept flicking toward his watch. Michael looked impatient, fidgeting as if he wanted to leave. Vanessa even checked her phone behind her black veil. This was how they said goodbye with boredom and distraction. The Reverend John spoke about eternal rest, about heaven, about peace. But his words fell flat in my broken heart. I didn't want Robert to rest. I wanted him back home with me, sitting on the porch, drinking coffee, laughing softly the way he used to. When it came time to throw dirt onto the casket, my legs gave out. Helen had to hold me up as I cried uncontrollably. The sound of the dirt hitting the wood was the most final, painful sound I'd ever heard. And then at that exact moment my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "I'm alive." That's not me in the casket. My heart stopped. The words blurred in front of my eyes. I thought I was losing my mind. With shaking hands I replied, "Who are you?" The answer came almost instantly. "I can't say. They're watching. Don't trust our sons." The phone slipped from my hands. Helen bent to pick it up, but I stopped her. I couldn't let anyone see those messages, not until I knew what was going on. "Are you okay, Mom?" David asked, walking toward me with a worried look. I stared at his face, searching for answers, for any hint of truth. His expression looked sincere, but suddenly, everything about him felt suspicious. "I'm fine," I lied, slipping the phone into my purse. "I just need to go home." On the way back, I couldn't stop thinking about the messages. Was someone playing a cruel joke? Or could it really be true? Could Robert still be alive? If he was, then who had we buried? And if he wasn't, who knew enough about our family to write something that specific? That night, alone in our quiet house that now felt like a tomb, I went over everything again in my mind. Robert's accident had been strange from the very start. David said a machine exploded, but Robert knew that shop like the back of his hand. He was obsessed with safety. And how did David and Michael get to the hospital before me? The hospital had called me first. How could they have known? And then there was the money. From day one, they kept talking about insurance policies and beneficiaries, like they'd been expecting this moment. I decided to check Robert's papers. In his old desk, he kept a small metal box with all our documents: insurance, house deed, shop files, everything. Inside, I found the life insurance policy David had mentioned. $50,000. But something caught my eye. The policy had been updated only 6 months ago, raised from $5,000 to $50,000. Why had Robert changed it? He never told me. And who convinced him to? Then I found another document I didn't recognize, a workers' comp policy, taken out just 2 months before he died. It listed $5,000 for accidents and $15,000 for accidental death. For a family like ours, that was a huge amount, tempting enough for someone without a conscience. Just then my phone buzzed again. Another message from the same number. "Check the bank account. See who's been moving money." This time, I didn't hesitate. Whoever was sending these messages knew too much to be a prankster. The next morning, I went to the bank Robert and I had used for 30 years. Mrs. Green, the manager who had known us forever, looked up with sympathy. "Evelyn, I'm so sorry about Robert. He was such a good man." "Thank you," I said softly. "I came to check our accounts. I need to understand our finances." She brought up our bank statements from the last 6 months. What I saw made my blood run cold. In the last 3 months, big withdrawals had been made from our savings: $1,000 in January, $3,000 in February, $4,000 in March. Money I knew nothing about. Who approved these withdrawals? I asked, my voice shaking. "Your husband," Mrs. Green said. "He came in himself and said he needed the money for shop repairs." But that couldn't be right. I handled all the household money. Robert would never take out thousands without telling me. And there hadn't been any repairs at the shop. "Do you have the withdrawal slips?" I asked. She handed them to me. The signatures looked like Robert's, but something was wrong. The handwriting was too shaky, too uneven. Robert's writing was always firm and neat. "Did he come alone?" I asked quietly. Mrs. Green thought for a moment. Now that you mention it, I think one of your sons came with him once or twice. David, I believe. He said he was helping his dad with the paperwork because Robert was having trouble reading without his glasses. David. My son. The same son who had insisted on handling the funeral. The same one who had talked about insurance before his father's body was even cold. Robert never took his glasses off during the day. He saw perfectly well. That afternoon, I stared at the bank slips again and again, and just then another message came through. The insurance was their idea. They convinced Robert he needed more protection for you. It was a trap. I froze. The truth was right there, staring me in the face. I could no longer deny it. The evidence was piling up, and it all pointed to my own sons. The increased insurance policies, the missing money from our account, David's name showing up in transactions I knew nothing about. Everything started to form a terrifying pattern. His cold, calculated behavior during his father's illness, and how quickly he handled the funeral arrangements, it all felt wrong. But the question that haunted me most was this. Had my sons really planned Robert's death? How had they done it? And who was the person sending me these mysterious messages? How did they know so much about everything that had happened? The next few days were a blur of fear and confusion. Every smile from David, every hug from Michael, every soft word of comfort, all of it felt fake, like they were hiding something dark behind their faces. Still, I needed real proof before I could accept something so horrible that my own children might have killed their father. The messages kept coming. Go to Robert's shop. Look inside his desk. There are things you didn't see. The next morning, I decided to go there, my first time since the accident. David had said one of the machines exploded, but when I arrived, what I saw made my blood run cold. The shop was spotless. Too spotless. It was far too clean for a place where an explosion had supposedly happened. There were no burn marks on the walls, no debris, no signs of any blast at all. Where's the machine that exploded? I muttered to myself, walking from one end of the shop to the other. Everything was there, in perfect order: the welder, the compressor, the saw. Not a single one looked damaged. So what had really caused the accident? Then I opened Robert's desk, and what I found made my heart stop. It was a note, written in his familiar handwriting, dated 3 days before he died. David insists I need more insurance. He says it's for Evelyn, but something doesn't feel right. I don't trust his intentions. My hands began to shake as I read another note beneath it. Michael brought me some papers to sign. He says they're for modernizing the shop, but I don't understand them. Why the rush? Robert had known something was wrong. He had felt the danger coming. He'd suspected our sons, but he died before he could tell me. I kept searching and found an envelope with my name written on it. My fingers trembled as I opened it. Inside was a letter from Robert. My dearest Evelyn, if you're reading this, it means something has happened to me. In the past few months, I've noticed strange behavior in David and Michael. They seem too focused on money, on our insurance, on selling the house. Vanessa has been pushing them a lot. Yesterday, David told me I should be careful, because at my age, any accident could be fatal. I don't know why, but those words sounded like a warning. I love you, Evelyn. If something happens to me, please don't trust anyone blindly, not even our sons. The letter slipped from my hands. Robert had sensed his death coming. He had seen the signs I refused to see, signs I had ignored because of a mother's love. That night, David came to visit. He walked in smiling, holding a bottle of wine. But now, that smile looked completely fake to me. Mom, I've been thinking about your future, he said casually, pouring himself a glass without even asking if I wanted one. The insurance money is being processed already. It'll be about $15,000. How do you know the exact amount? I asked, pretending to sound curious. Well, he said quickly, I helped Dad with the insurance paperwork. He wanted to make sure you'd be taken care of. A lie. Robert's note had made it clear that David had pressured him into it. And what do you think I should do with that money? I asked, keeping my voice calm while watching his face closely. His eyes lit up, and a greedy sparkle flashed across them. You could buy a smaller house, something cozy. Or better yet, move into a nice retirement community. You'd have people around and proper medical care. Michael and I could help manage your money so it lasts longer. Manage my money. We just want to take care of you, Mom, he continued smoothly. At your age, it's easy for people to take advantage of you or trick you. We know about business and investments. We could triple that money in a few years. Triple it, or steal it for themselves. Let me think about it, I said, forcing a smile and trying to buy time. Of course, Vanessa added sweetly, her fake smile matching his. But don't take too long. It's for your own good. After they left, I sat alone in my kitchen, shaking this time not from grief, but from pure rage and fear. My own sons, my flesh and blood, had not only killed their father, but were now planning to steal everything I had left. That night, my phone buzzed again. This time, the message was longer than usual. Tomorrow, go to the police station. Ask for the report on Robert's accident. There are contradictions you need to know about. The next morning, I went straight to the local police station. Sergeant Walker, who had known Robert for years, greeted me kindly. You're here for the report on your husband's accident? He asked, frowning in confusion. Yes, I said. The accident at his shop when the machine exploded. He flipped through some files, then shook his head. I'm sorry, Mrs. Carter, but we don't have any report of an explosion at Robert's shop. Actually, we have no report of any work accident involving your husband. I felt dizzy, like the ground was moving under me. But my son said it was an accident at the shop. That's why he was in the hospital. The sergeant looked at me gently. Mrs. Carter, your husband was admitted to the hospital on Tuesday morning, but not because of an accident. According to the medical report here, he was brought in unconscious, showing clear signs of poisoning. Poisoning? I whispered, my heart pounding. Yes. The doctors found traces of methanol in his blood, enough to cause blindness, brain damage, and eventually death. The hospital should have informed you of this. It wasn't an explosion. It wasn't an accident. Someone had poisoned my husband. Why didn't anyone tell me this? I asked, my voice breaking. The immediate family who signed the hospital papers, he said carefully, requested that the information remain confidential to avoid unnecessary speculation. They said you were too emotionally fragile to handle the technical details. Immediate family. David and Michael. They had hidden the truth about Robert's poisoning. They'd invented the explosion story. They had fooled me and everyone else to cover up a murder. Mrs. Carter, the sergeant said softly, if you have doubts about your husband's death, we can open a formal investigation. Doubts? No. I didn't have doubts. I had certainty. My sons had murdered their father for money. That afternoon, Michael came to see me, carrying a bouquet of flowers and wearing the same fake smile as his brother. How are you, Mom? You look tired. I'm fine, I lied, watching him closely, just thinking about the future. That's good, he said quickly. David and I were talking. We think you should sell the house soon while the market's still good. Why the rush? I asked. Well, you know, old houses lose value fast, and you need liquidity for funeral costs, medical bills. More lies. The funeral had been dirt cheap. The hospital insurance had covered everything. Michael, I said, looking him straight in the eyes, you knew your father didn't die in a work accident. For a second, pure panic flashed across his face, then he recovered. What are you talking about, Mom? I went to the police station, I said. There's no report of any explosion at Dad's shop. This time he couldn't hide his fear. Mom, you shouldn't be doing things like that, he said nervously. You'll just confuse yourself. The grief is getting to you. The grief is getting to me? Or have you been lying to me? He stood up so suddenly that he knocked over the coffee cup I'd poured for him. I think you need to rest, he said quickly. We'll talk later, when you're calmer. He rushed out, but not before stepping onto the porch to make a phone call. I couldn't hear the words, but his voice sounded tense, urgent. That night, I got another message. It was the most chilling one yet. They're coming together tomorrow. They'll try to convince you that you're crazy, that grief is making you imagine things. Don't believe them. And don't eat or drink anything they give you. The next day, the prediction came true exactly as the message had said. David and Michael arrived together, with Vanessa by their side. They came in wearing fake concern, carrying a bag of pastries from the downtown bakery. Mom, we're so worried about you. David said in a syrupy tone. The neighbors said you've been acting strange. Helen told us you've been talking to yourself and not eating properly. That was a lie. Helen had never said any such thing. Vanessa brought your favorite pastries, Michael added, holding up the bag. And we made coffee the special brand you like. The warning echoed in my mind. Don't eat or drink anything they give you. Were they planning to poison me too? Thank you, I said politely. But I already had breakfast. But Mom, Vanessa said with a fake smile that didn't reach her eyes. You really need to eat. You've lost so much weight since Robert passed away. I'm fine, I said firmly, keeping my distance. David exchanged a look with Michael, the same silent look they'd shared at the hospital when the doctor gave Robert's prognosis. Mom, David said, sitting closer to me. We need to talk about something important. Michael and I have been consulting with some doctors about your recent behavior. My behavior? I repeated, narrowing my eyes. Yes, he said softly. The strange questions you've been asking. Your visits to the police station. Your obsession with small details about Dad's death. It's normal after such a big loss, but it can become dangerous if untreated. Michael nodded seriously. We talked to Dr. Mason. He says it's common for older people to become paranoid after losing a spouse, especially women your age. Paranoid. They were calling me crazy. I'm not paranoid, I said sharply. I'm just asking the questions I should have asked from the beginning. What questions? David demanded. Like why there's no police report about your father's so-called accident. Why the shop looks perfectly fine if there was an explosion. And why you withdrew $5,000 from our account without telling me. The silence that followed was heavy, unbearable. The three of them exchanged panicked glances. Mom, Michael said after a pause. Those things all have simple explanations. Dad withdrew that money for repairs. He wanted it to be a surprise for you. A surprise? I asked. He wanted to remodel the house, David said quickly. He had hired workers to fix the roof and paint the walls. It was supposed to be a birthday surprise. If that were true, where were the workers? The tools? The paint? And why didn't anyone in town know about it? And about the police report, David added. Not all work accidents have to be reported, especially if they happen on private property. More lies. Sergeant Walker had made it clear that any serious work injury must be officially reported. Mom, Vanessa cut in with her sweet fake voice. We just want to take care of you. That's why we think it's best for you to move somewhere that offers proper medical care. A home, David corrected her, smiling faintly. A special care home for people going through complicated grief. There'll be doctors, nurses, activities. You'll be safe and comfortable. And while you're there, Michael added quickly, we can handle the house, the insurance money, and all those complicated things you shouldn't have to worry about right now. And there it was, their full plan. They wanted to declare me mentally unstable, lock me away in a care home, and take everything I owned. They had killed Robert for his insurance money, and now they wanted to steal from me too. I looked at them quietly and asked, and what if I refuse? David smiled faintly. Why would you refuse? David looked at me with a smile that sent chills down my spine. We just want what's best for you, Mom. This is my house, I said firmly. This is where I built my life with Robert. This is where I raised you. Mom, Michael sighed, rolling his eyes. You can't live in the past forever. Dad is gone. You have to accept it and move on. I have accepted it, I replied. But that doesn't mean I'm going to give up my home and my money. The fake concern on their faces started to fade. Their masks were slipping. David suddenly stood up, his tone turning cold. All right. If you won't listen to reason, we'll have to take more drastic measures. What does that mean? I asked, my heart tightening. It means we can start a legal process to have you declared mentally incompetent, he said calmly. We already have witnesses to your erratic behavior and doctors who've confirmed you're suffering from senile paranoia. Doctors? I asked in disbelief. What doctors? I haven't spoken to any doctors. Dr. Mason already signed a preliminary report, Michael said smoothly. He says, based on our description of your behavior, you likely need special care. A doctor I'd never met had written a report about my mind based only on my son's lies. How much had they paid him to create that false evaluation? David leaned forward. So, you can cooperate voluntarily, he said, or we'll do it legally. Either way, you're getting the help you need. It was a threat. If I didn't hand over my money willingly, they'd use the law to steal it from me. I need time to think, I said quietly, trying to buy myself some space. Of course, Vanessa said sweetly, though her eyes were cold. But not too much time. It's for your own good. After they left, I sat in my kitchen trembling not just from fear, but from pure anger. My own sons, my own flesh and blood, had killed their father. And now they were planning to destroy me too. That night, my phone buzzed with another message, this one longer than the rest. Evelyn, this is Thomas Reed, a private investigator. Robert hired me 3 weeks before he died because he suspected David and Michael. They poisoned him with methanol mixed into his morning coffee. I have audio recordings of their conversations, proof that they planned everything. Tomorrow at 3 p.m., go to the corner cafe. Sit at the back table. I'll be there. At last, I would finally know who had been sending me those messages. And more importantly, I would have the proof I needed to get justice for Robert. But I knew I didn't have much time. David and Michael had shown their true colors. If I didn't act fast, I'd end up locked in some care home, while they spent the money that had cost my husband his life. The war had begun. And even though I was just a 66-year-old woman against 2 ruthless men, I had something they didn't: the truth. And the truth always finds its way to the light. That night, for the first time since Robert's death, I smiled. My husband hadn't died in vain. His caution, his instincts, and his decision to hire a private investigator were about to bring justice. David and Michael had underestimated their mother. They were about to learn that a woman fighting for her husband's memory is far more dangerous than their greed. The next day arrived with a mix of nerves and determination. I dressed carefully, putting on my deep purple dress, the one I reserved for important moments. If I was going to meet the man who could change everything, I wanted to be ready. At 2:30 in the afternoon, I left the house and walked toward the corner cafe. My steps were firm, but my heart raced. Every shadow seemed suspicious. Every passerby looked like they could be watching me from my sons. For the first time, the paranoia they had accused me of didn't feel crazy. It felt necessary. The cafe was half full. I walked straight to the back table, as the message had instructed. I ordered a chamomile tea and waited, my hands shaking slightly against the wooden table. Exactly at 3 p.m., a man in his 50s approached. He was tall, with gray hair, intelligent eyes, and a serious but kind face. Under his arm, he carried a brown folder. "Mrs. Carter?" he said softly. I nodded, unable to trust my voice. "I'm Thomas Reed," he said. "I'm sorry for your loss. Robert was a good man." He sat down across from me and placed the folder on the table. "Before I show you what I have," he said, "you should know what you're about to see and hear will be painful. Are you ready?" "I've been ready since your first message," I said, with a strength that surprised even me. Thomas opened the folder and pulled out a small voice recorder. "Robert came to me a month ago," he explained. "He was worried about his sons. He hired me to quietly investigate their actions." He pressed the play button. Robert's voice, the voice I had loved for 42 years, filled the small cafe. "Thomas," he said, "I need you to know that if something happens to me, it won't be an accident. David and Michael have been pushing me to increase my life insurance. Yesterday, David brought papers he claimed were to better protect Evelyn. But when I read them, I saw clauses that directly benefited them." My chest tightened. Hearing his voice again made my eyes fill with tears. But every word confirmed what I already feared. The recording continued. "Michael's been asking strange questions about my daily routine, what I eat for breakfast, what time I leave the house, if Evelyn ever comes to the shop. He says he's just concerned, but the way he asks worries me." Thomas paused the recorder. "That conversation was 3 weeks before his death," he said quietly. "But there's more." He pressed play again. This time it was David's voice. "No, we can't wait any longer," David said. "The old man's getting suspicious. Yesterday he asked why I'm so interested in his insurance. Yes, I already have the methanol, It's perfect. The symptoms look like a heart attack or stroke. Mom won't be a problem. After Dad dies, she'll be too broken to fight back. Tears streamed down my face. It was my son's voice, cold, emotionless, plotting his own father's death. There's one more, Thomas said softly. This one's from the day before Robert died. He played another clip. This time it was Michael. Everything's ready, Michael said. Tomorrow David will pour the methanol into Dad's coffee. We told him it's a vitamin supplement a doctor recommended. He'll drink it without a clue. The symptoms start with dizziness and confusion, then vision loss, convulsions, coma. The doctors will think it's a stroke or heart attack. By the time they realize it's poisoning, it'll be too late. My whole world shattered. Not only had they planned Robert's murder, they had carried it out with a level of coldness that froze my blood. How could my sons, the babies I had nursed, the boys I had comforted through their nightmares, do something so cruel, so evil? How did you get these recordings? I asked between tears. Robert asked me to plant listening devices in your house, Thomas explained. He was scared, but he didn't know exactly what to be afraid of. We placed one on the home phone and others in different spots. He opened his folder again and pulled out a few photographs. I also have this, he said, showing me the first one. David buying methanol at a hardware store about 30 miles from town. He paid in cash and used a fake name, but I caught it on video. In the photos, David was leaving the store holding a small bottle. The date stamp was 5 days before Robert's death. And this, Thomas continued, laying out more documents. These are your son's financial records from the last 6 months. They've been spending far more money than they actually make. David owes $70,000 to a city lender, and Michael has $40,000 in gambling debts. They were drowning in debt. It wasn't just greed that made them kill their father, it was desperation. They saw Robert as the easiest way out. Why didn't you go to the police right after Robert died? I asked. Because David and Michael covered their tracks well, Thomas replied. They bribed the doctor at the hospital to change the official cause of death. Instead of poisoning, the death certificate lists heart failure caused by a work accident. Without the medical proof, my recordings alone wouldn't have been enough to convict them. But now, I said, my voice steady despite the tears, we have all the evidence. Exactly, Thomas nodded. But there's something else you need to know. A chill ran down my spine. What? Your sons were planning to kill you too. My heart stopped. Thomas pressed play on the recorder again. This time, both David's and Michael's voices came through clearly. Once we get Dad's insurance money, David said coldly, we'll have to get rid of Mom too. We can't risk her getting suspicious. How? Michael asked. The same way we did with Dad, David replied. But this time, we'll make it look like suicide depression after losing her husband. No one will question it. And since we're her only heirs, we'll get everything: the house, the savings, the insurance. Almost $200,000 in total. The recording stopped. I couldn't stop shaking. My own sons, the children I had raised, had not only murdered their father, they had planned to kill me too. All for money. Mrs. Carter, Thomas said softly, I know this is hard, but we have enough to make them pay for everything they've done. What do we do now? I asked, wiping my tears. First, we take everything to the police, Thomas said firmly. Sergeant Walker is honest. He's not part of any corruption. Second, we must act fast. Your sons are planning to have you declared mentally incompetent tomorrow. Tomorrow? I gasped. Yes, Thomas said. I intercepted one of their phone calls this morning. They have a meeting with Judge Harrison at 10 a.m. to start the process. I stood up, stronger than I had felt in weeks. Then we act tonight. Exactly, Thomas agreed. But before we go, there's one last thing I need to show you. He pulled out one final photo. It showed Robert leaving a medical clinic I didn't recognize. 3 days before he died, Thomas said. Robert went for a full checkup in the city. The results show he was perfectly healthy, no heart issues, no high blood pressure, nothing. He was in great shape. This proves beyond doubt that his death was caused by poisoning, not natural causes. That was the final piece of the puzzle. Robert had been a healthy man murdered by his own sons. Thomas, I said, taking his hand. Thank you for keeping your promise to my husband. Now let's get justice. That same night, Thomas and I went straight to the police station. Sergeant Walker was working the night shift. The timing couldn't have been better. It was 8 p.m. when we arrived. The station was quiet. Sergeant Walker, I said firmly, I need to file an official report for the murder of my husband, Robert Carter. He looked up, startled. Murder? Mrs. Carter, the death certificate says he died from heart complications after a work accident. The death certificate is false, I said, placing Thomas's folder on his desk. My husband was poisoned with methanol by our own sons. For the next 2 hours, we laid out everything. The voice recordings, the photos of David buying methanol, the bank statements showing the stolen money, Robert's clean medical report, and the recordings where my sons confessed to both murders, Robert's and the one they had planned for me. The sergeant listened in silence, his face growing grimmer by the minute. When we finished, he leaned back in his chair, shaking his head in disbelief. This is monstrous, he said quietly. Are you sure you want to go through with this, Mrs. Carter? Once we arrest them, there's no going back. Sergeant, I said with all the strength I had left, those men killed my husband for money. They planned to kill me too. They stopped being my sons the moment they became murderers. They need to face justice. We'll need to exhume Robert's body to confirm the methanol poisoning, he said carefully. Are you ready for that? Do whatever you must, I said without hesitation. The sergeant immediately called the Mr. Clark. Despite the late hour, the DA came to the station in person. After reviewing everything, he signed the arrest warrants for David and Michael on the spot. We'll move at dawn, the DA said. We need to act fast before they destroy any more evidence. Thomas walked me home afterward. Are you sure you'll be okay alone? He asked gently. I'll be fine, I told him. I'm not afraid anymore. I have the truth on my side. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the kitchen, staring at the photos of Robert on the walls. For the first time since his death, I didn't feel only grief, I felt relief. Justice was finally coming. At 6 a.m., my phone rang. It was David. Mom, you have to come to Michael's house right now, he said urgently. Something terrible has happened. What happened? I asked, pretending to sound worried. It's better if I explain in person. Please hurry. I knew it was a trap. After hearing the recordings the night before, I understood what they were trying to do. They were moving up their plan to get rid of me. But I also knew the police were already on their way. I'm on my way, I lied, hanging up. Instead of going to Michael's house, I stayed right there in my kitchen waiting. At 7:30 a.m., I saw police cars speeding toward both of my sons' homes from my window. My phone rang nonstop for the next hour, first David, then Michael, both sounding more desperate each time, but I didn't answer. At 9 a.m., Sergeant Walker knocked on my door. Mrs. Carter, he said, we've arrested David and Michael. They're in custody, charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. My knees almost gave out, but not from fear. From relief. How did they react? I asked. David denied everything until we played the recordings. Then he broke down. Michael tried to escape through the back window. We had to chase him for 6 blocks. That afternoon, Vanessa showed up at my house. She was crying hysterically, a completely different woman from the cold one I had known before. Mrs. Carter, please, she begged. You have to drop the charges against David. He's not evil. He was just desperate because of his debts. It's my fault too, I pressured him for money. I looked at her with calm but cold eyes. Vanessa, I said, your husband poisoned mine. He planned to kill me too. There's no excuse for that. But we're family, she whispered. Not anymore, I said quietly. She screamed desperately. Think about what this will do to the family. The family died the day you decided to kill Robert for money, I replied coldly. Now please leave my house. 3 days later, they exhumed Robert's body. The lab results confirmed everything. Thomas had discovered lethal levels of methanol in his system, enough to cause all the symptoms he had shown before his death. The case shook the entire town. No one could believe that 2 sons had murdered their own father for money. Local newspapers called it the cruelest crime of the decade. As the investigation continued, more shocking details came to light. David really did owe $70,000 to illegal moneylenders who had started threatening him. Michael had lost $40,000 gambling underground and was also being harassed by his creditors. They had seen Robert's life insurance as their only escape, but their greed had pushed them too far. The huge increase in the insurance policies had made Robert suspicious. We also learned that the doctor who falsified Robert's death certificate had accepted a $5,000 bribe from David. He was later arrested for obstructing justice and falsifying documents. Thomas explained everything Robert had arranged before his death. "Your husband was smarter than his sons thought," he told me. "He knew something bad was coming, but he didn't know exactly what. He hired me not just to investigate David and Michael, but also to protect you if anything happened to him." "Did he know they were going to kill him?" I asked. "Not for sure," Thomas said, "but he suspected his life was in danger. That's why we set up the recordings. That's why we documented everything. He wanted to make sure that if something happened, the truth would come out." Even in his final days, Robert had been protecting me. He had sensed our son's betrayal and made sure justice would find them. The trial was scheduled for 2 months later. David and Michael were both charged with first-degree murder, a crime that carried a sentence of 25 years to life. When the day of the trial finally arrived, the courtroom was packed. Reporters from all over came to cover what was now being called the Killer Sons case. The whole town showed up: neighbors, Robert's old co-workers, even people I barely knew who wanted to see justice served. I wore my best black dress, the same one I had worn on our wedding day, though now it symbolized mourning and dignity. Thomas sat beside me through the entire trial, his presence giving me the strength to face what would be the hardest day of my life. David and Michael walked into the courtroom in handcuffs, wearing orange prison uniforms. Seeing them like that broke my heart again, but I felt no pity, only sorrow for the people they had chosen to become long before they killed their father. The prosecutor presented the case with devastating precision. One by one, the recordings were played in court. Every time the voices of David and Michael were heard calmly planning Robert's murder, the courtroom fell completely silent. When the recording played where they also discussed killing me, several people gasped. One elderly woman stood up and left the courtroom crying. I couldn't blame her. It was too much horror to take in. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," the prosecutor said in his opening statement, "this isn't a simple case of greed. This is cold, calculated murder. 2 sons decided to kill the father who raised them with love and sacrifice, all because they needed money to pay off their debts." David and Michael's lawyers tried to argue that they acted out of desperation and bad influence, but the evidence was overwhelming. The recordings didn't lie. The bank documents didn't lie. The medical proof of methanol poisoning didn't lie. When it was my turn to testify, I walked to the stand on trembling legs but with a clear mind. I had been waiting for this moment for months. "Mrs. Carter," the prosecutor asked, "can you tell us what your relationship was like with your sons before your husband's death?" "I thought it was good," I answered, looking directly at David and Michael. "I raised them with love. I sacrificed everything for them. Their father worked from dawn to dusk to give them the best life we could. I never imagined that same love and sacrifice would become the reason for his murder." "At any point, did you suspect they might harm your husband?" he asked. "No," I said quietly. "That's the most painful part. I trusted them completely. When they told me Robert had an accident at his shop, I believed them. When they arranged the funeral so quickly, I thought they were just being responsible. I never realized they were covering up a murder." David lowered his head while I spoke. Michael stared at me with defiance, but I could see tears in his eyes. Too late for tears. Too late for regret. The most dramatic moment of the trial came when the prosecutor played the full recording where they plotted my murder. David's voice echoed in the courtroom. "Once we get Dad's insurance money, we have to get rid of Mom too. We can't risk her finding out." A wave of horror swept through the room. Some people turned to look at me with pity and disbelief. "How did you feel when you first heard this recording?" the prosecutor asked. "I realized," I said, my voice trembling but steady, "that I had lost my sons long before I lost my husband. The babies I once nursed and comforted had died years ago, replaced by 2 strangers who would do anything for money." The defense tried to cross-examine me, suggesting that maybe I misunderstood their intentions, that grief had clouded my judgment. But the truth was undeniable. The recordings spoke for themselves. Thomas also took the stand and explained everything in detail, how Robert had hired him because he was afraid of his own sons. He described every step of the investigation, every clue he gathered, and every recording that revealed the truth. The medical examiner confirmed the final piece. Robert had been poisoned. The lab found deadly levels of methanol in his body, exactly the substance that would have caused all the symptoms he suffered before he died. After 3 long days of painful testimony, it was time for closing arguments. The prosecutor's words were sharp and powerful. David and Michael are not victims of their circumstances, he said. They are predators, men who saw their own parents as obstacles in their way. They planned, carried out, and covered up Robert's murder, and they were ready to do the same to Evelyn. These men do not deserve compassion. They deserve justice. The jury deliberated for 6 long hours. The courtroom was completely silent when they returned. I could hear my heart pounding as the judge began to read the verdict. In the case of the state versus David Carter and Michael Carter, on the charge of first-degree murder of Robert Carter, we find the defendants guilty. Gasps and whispers filled the courtroom. David collapsed in his seat, realizing at last what he had done. Michael just sat still, staring straight ahead, blank and expressionless. Then came the second verdict. On the charge of conspiracy to commit murder against Evelyn Carter, we find the defendants guilty. The judge immediately gave the sentence. David Carter and Michael Carter, for the premeditated murder of your father and the conspiracy to murder your mother, I sentence you both to life in prison with no chance of parole for 30 years. When I heard those words, I felt something lift off my chest, a heavy burden I'd carried for months. Justice. Finally, Robert had justice. After the trial, people came up to hug me, to comfort me, to thank me for being brave. My dear friend Helen cried with me, not from sadness but from relief. Evelyn, she whispered, Robert can finally rest in peace. That night, I returned to my home, but it no longer felt like a place of pain and betrayal. It felt like my home again, the home Robert and I had shared happily for 42 years. A week later, Thomas came to visit. How are you feeling? He asked gently. At peace, I said honestly. For the first time since Robert's death, I was sleeping soundly. I knew he was resting, too, because his death had not gone unpunished. As for the money, I told Thomas, I donated the entire life insurance payout to a foundation for victims of family crimes. That money was stained with blood. I could never use it. My own savings were enough to live a quiet, simple life for the rest of my days. 6 months after the trial, I received a letter from prison. It was from David. Mom, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need you to know that I'm sorry. The money, the debts, the desperation, they blinded us. We lost our humanity. Michael and I destroyed the most loving family in the world for money we didn't even get to enjoy. Tomorrow, I'm going to take my life. I can't live with what we did. Take care of yourself, Mom. Tell Dad we're sorry we were such terrible sons. I wasn't able to stop him. David was found hanging in his cell the next day. When Michael found out about his brother's death, he completely broke down. He had a severe mental breakdown and was transferred to the prison's psychiatric ward. Today, 2 years after the trial, I live peacefully in my small house. I turned Robert's old workshop into a garden full of flowers. Every Sunday, I pick the freshest ones and take them to his grave. Thomas still visits me often. He's become more than a friend, he's family now. Sometimes neighbors ask me if I miss my sons. My answer is complicated. I miss the children they once were, but those boys died long before Robert did. The men they became were strangers. They shared my blood, but not my heart. I've learned something important. Family isn't just about blood. It's about love, loyalty, and respect. Robert was my true family for 42 years. And the friends who stood by me during the darkest time of my life, they're my family now. Justice didn't bring Robert back, but it brought peace to my heart. And on quiet nights, when I sit on the porch where we used to drink coffee together, I swear I can still feel his presence, proud of me for being strong enough to do what was right, even if it meant losing my sons forever. 5 years have passed since that day in the cemetery, the day I received the message that changed my life. I'm 71 now. My hair is completely white, showing every storm I've survived. But my eyes, Helen says, shine with a peace they never had before. The house where Robert and I built our dreams is still my haven. I've made a few small improvements with what little I had saved. Painted the walls a soft yellow, Robert's favorite color, and turned his old workshop into the most beautiful garden in the neighborhood. Red roses, white carnations, and tall sunflowers that stretch toward the sun, just like Robert taught me to do when life got hard. Thomas Reed became more than the investigator who helped me get justice. He became part of my family. He visits every Wednesday afternoon, and we sit on the porch drinking coffee while he tells me stories from his other cases. Sometimes he asks if I ever regret reporting my own sons. If maybe it would have been easier to stay silent and live with the lie. Never. I always say, the truth hurts, but lies destroy the soul. The foundation I created with the insurance money has grown beyond anything I imagined. The Robert Carter Foundation for Victims of Family Crimes now helps dozens of families every year, families like mine. We provide lawyers, psychologists, and private investigators to make sure no one else has to suffer in silence the way I did. 6 months ago, a 40-year-old woman named Grace came to see me. She believed her brother had murdered their mother for an inheritance. Her story was painfully familiar: greedy relatives, pressure to sell property, strange behavior after the funeral. The foundation gave her a private investigator, legal help, and counseling, all for free. 3 months later, her brother was convicted of murder. When Grace came back to see me, she hugged me tightly and said through tears, "Mrs. Carter, you saved my life. If you hadn't had the courage to report your sons, I never would have had the courage to report my brother." Moments like that remind me that all my pain had a purpose. That Robert's death, as terrible as it was, gave birth to something good, something that helps others find justice and peace. Michael is still alive, but he's no longer the same. After David's suicide, his mind completely broke. The doctors say he lives in constant guilt, haunted by Robert's memory. He claims my husband visits him every night to scold him for the murder. He has tried to take his own life 3 times, but the guards always manage to stop him. Sometimes, I still receive letters from him, messy, confusing, full of desperate apologies and pleas for forgiveness. I don't know if I'll ever truly forgive him, but I do pray for his soul, because Robert would have wanted me to. At first, I used to read Michael's letters, searching for even the smallest sign of the son I once raised with so much love. But after a while, I realized reading them only reopened wounds that had already started to heal. Now I keep them sealed in a shoebox. Maybe one day I'll read them. Maybe I won't. Either way, I've earned the right to protect my peace of mind. Vanessa disappeared right after the trial. Someone told me she moved to the city and even changed her name. I don't blame her. Living with the last name of a murderer must be unbearable. Sometimes I still wonder if she knew what David was planning, if she was silently part of Robert's death. But those questions belong to the past, and I've learned to live in the present. Willowtown will never forget what happened. The case became a local legend, a story parents tell their children to warn them about greed and betrayal. Some people see me as a hero. Others call me a cruel woman for sending her own sons to prison. I don't care what they think. I know the truth, and that truth gave me peace. My health has stayed surprisingly good for my age. The doctor says it's because I finally let go of all the pain and stress I had been carrying. The body heals when the heart finds peace, he told me during my last checkup. Sunday mornings are still my favorite. I cut fresh flowers from my garden and walk to the cemetery to visit Robert's grave. His headstone now has the words I chose after the trial. Robert Carter, beloved husband, betrayed father, honorable man. His love was stronger than his death. When I visit, I tell him everything that's happened during the week, about the foundation, the families we've helped, and the letters I get from people who found justice because of our story. Sometimes I can almost feel his approval in the soft wind that moves the trees nearby. Do you know what's strange, my love? I said during my last visit. I don't feel pain anymore when I think of David and Michael. Only pity. Pity, because they had all the love in the world and still chose hate. They had a family that adored them, and they chose betrayal. They had a chance to be good men like you, and they chose to be murderers instead. Last week, a reporter came from the city to interview me for a documentary about family crimes. She asked if I had a message for people going through similar pain. Family is not an excuse for crime, I told her. Love is not blind, true love has boundaries. If someone claims to love you but is willing to hurt you for money or convenience, that person doesn't love you at all. And it's never too late to seek justice, no matter who the culprit is. This year marked the 5th anniversary of Robert's death, so I organized a small memorial service in his honor. Over 200 people came: neighbors, members of the foundation, families we've helped, and local officials. It was beautiful to see how a tragedy that once destroyed me had turned into something that now inspires others. Thomas gave a touching speech. Robert Carter died because of his son's greed, he said. But his legacy lives on in every family that finds justice because of his wife's courage. Evil tried to erase his story, but good turned it into hope for others. That night, before going to bed, I looked through old photos of David and Michael as children playing in the yard, hugging their father, laughing with me on Christmas mornings. I let myself cry for those innocent little boys who once existed before greed poisoned their hearts. But I no longer cry for the men they became. Those men made their choices. My story turned out to be bigger than my own pain. It became proof that justice is possible even when it comes from the most unexpected person. A 66-year-old widow showed that truth is stronger than lies, that love is stronger than betrayal, and that it's never too late to do what's right. Tomorrow is Wednesday. Thomas will be coming over for coffee, like always. I'll bake his favorite pastry and tell him about the new thank you letters that came in this week. Afterward, we'll spend the afternoon planting new flowers for spring. Life goes on simpler, but more real than ever before. I've learned that true family isn't about sharing blood. It's about sharing values, respect, and a love that never turns into harm. Robert, wherever you are, I hope you know I kept my promise, the one I made at your grave that terrible day. I found the truth. I sought justice. And I turned our pain into hope for others. Your death was not in vain, my love. Did you like my story? And from which city are you listening? Tell me in the comments below, I'd love to know. Thank you so much for your kindness and support. I can't wait to read your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next story.